In this world, there are only three things I am as certain about as I am certain of my own name. AI is going to destroy this world as we know it. Nigeria is never getting better without a very hectic revolution. And the third, Timothée Chalamet is carrying an Oscar home this year for his performance in Marty Supreme. I know that definitively. Hi, I'm Tomiwa, and I love to share my takes on film, television, pop culture, books, you name it. Marty Supreme is possibly Josh Safdie's best work yet. It is glaring that without a doubt, especially bearing in mind the very bold statement Timothée made at the SAG Awards the other year.
I'm really in pursuit of greatness. I know people don't usually talk like that, but I want to be one of the greats.
That Oscar is very much his. Unfortunately, let's get into it. I'm a very optimistic person in general when it comes to films. You could call that a fault of mine. It's something that reflects even in the way I talk about films, the way I review films. But trust me when I beat my chest and tell you, Marty Supreme is a solid 9 out of 10 and it is going to sweep at this year's Oscars. Look.
So there's some education that needs to be done. I can see that.
Something you guys need to understand about the Oscars. The Oscars love a good underdog. They love a good prestige drama. They love a good American dream, rhetoric, story, fairy tale situation. Everything about Marty Supreme screams Oscar bait, Oscar material, call it whatever you want to call it. But that film is not walking away empty-handed. It has all of the ingredients that made Emilia Perez such a success, except it's executed so perfectly and so flawlessly, and every aspect of this film is untouchable. Every aspect. It's crazy how 15 minutes into my viewing of that film, I knew I was watching an Oscar-winning film. It just has all those qualities. It's a sports film, but it's not a sports film. It has a young, white, arrogant male lead. Oh please, this nigga is walking away with an Oscar award this year.
Hello?
Oh, you're sounding a lot better, huh? That happened quick.
Oh, Liv, no thanks to you.
Enough. Mom, are you with Murray? Be honest.
No, I think he left for his trip. Okay?
His trip? What trip?
He's taking us to the Kutchers for the weekend.
When does...
But he would have stayed if I asked him
You're
to.
not sick, Mom. He's supposed to give me my money for my flight.
Well, I don't know anything about that, sweetie.
Yes, you do. Why do you think I'm working here? I literally only accepted this job for that.
I have no idea what you are implying.
You know what this is?
What? What
this
is
is
it?
sabotage. You're sabotaging me.
Please. You're sabotaging y'all.
The fact that both commercially and critically this film has been a success thus far says a lot. Look, if nothing else, the character of Marty Supreme is sufficient enough to thrust this film into the Hall of Fame forever. Like, it's just a character that's so well written, so well put together, and so authentic, so unapologetically authentic, which could be a strength as much as it is a weakness. In all my years, not that many years, I have never encountered a character quite as egotistical as Marty Supreme. The audacity to, in London, deny the accommodation that all the players, mind you, are staying in and essentially seizing a room in this very expensive hotel for himself, under the guise of it being that the Ritz is hosting all the ITTF's best table tennis players, or how did he phrase it? Looking back, that was really the tip of the iceberg, because across this film, in a number of ways, it felt like trauma porn almost, because it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. The decisions that Marty was making, the positions he found himself in, it was actions versus circumstances, and he was losing on both ends. It was a ridiculous situation, funny for all the wrong reasons. There's the fact that he's a two-time homewrecker, a robber, a scammer, a person so ambitious, so lacking of a moral compass. However, what he does possess that is so inherently authentic to him and ultimately serves as characteristic that does make him endearing is his very solid sense of self. I went into this film blind, so I had no idea what the plot was. All I knew was that, okay, in all the promotions, there's talks of table tennis, there's promo with table tennis balls, etc, etc, etc. So I'm like, okay, sports film, sports drama, family drama type situation, rags to riches. How wrong I was. Marty Supreme is as unconventional as they come. However, it does scream Josh Safdie in all the best ways. Looking at the Jewish background of everything, looking at the gritty tone and texture of the whole film. I have to commend Josh Safdie for the fact that this film is set in the 50s and a lot of it is reminiscent of the 80s, which goes to further color Marty Supreme as timeless classic. People will be talking about this film for years to come because it is that good. I personally can't see myself watching it a second time because it was just a lot in terms of the trauma. It was a lot. I personally struggle with sitting down to watch characters make terrible life choices, and for 2 hours 30 something minutes, that's exactly what Marty Supreme was. I was particularly proud of myself for sitting through to the end. I physically recoiled on several occasions because it was so much going on at once. Don't even get me started on the dog. Oh my goodness.
What I really need is somebody who will always be there. Don't you promise me the world. Oh, babe, I'm already hurt. This time around for me, baby. It just speaks louder than words. If you're looking for devotion, talk to me.
The highlight of this film for me, 2 people, 3 people if we include Timothée Chalamet. That goes without saying. This man is a genius. He's one of one. He's a talent, a comet, a shooting star, a force to be reckoned with. He is exactly who he thinks he is. As an actor, Timothée Chalamet is going to go down with the greats.
All right, I gotta tell you something, Rachel. All right, it's not intended to be mean. I have a purpose. You don't. And if you think that's some sort of blessing, it's not. It puts me at a huge life disadvantage. It means I have an obligation to see a very specific thing through. And with that obligation comes sacrifice, okay? My life is the product of all the choices I've had to make. Your life is the product of, I don't even know what your life is the product of. You're just making it up as you go along. That's the kind of person you are. That's not the kind of person I am, okay? You're responsible for the shitty decisions you made. I never told you to get married, not once. You cannot pawn them off onto me.
I understand.
How much do you make a year at the pet store?
About $1,200.
Okay, in case you forgot, I have a week to make $1,500, not including airfare. I need to focus right now. No distractions.
Who I do want to talk about though, Odessa Azion, Tyler Okoma. Odessa Azion is not a person I was familiar with before seeing Marty Supreme. I heard about her nominations here and there and I'm like, okay. Actually, I was just for Tiana Taylor though, so I didn't really look in her direction, but Odessa Azion, she would have been deserving of a nomination if she got one. And what were artists, even Gwyneth Paltrow, she sold a beautiful picture to me. She told a beautiful story to me as well. The picture she painted of Kat Rockwell, something beautiful. Tyler, the creator, Tyler Okoma. I will always say this, I'm always for artists, singers, rappers making that pivot to acting. I'm always up for it, especially when they settle down and really humble themselves to take on the gritty roles. I'm always going to be here for it. It's always going to be something so magical to watch unfold. Tyler Okoma, I was not familiar with your game as an actor. I was not familiar with your game. This man took a very sparing amount of screen time and he left such an impact. He left such an imprint on my viewing. It says a lot. He had a handful of scenes and maybe the makeup department, costume department has a part to play in this, but he really did shed everything that had to do with the persona of Tyler the Creator and became something not so far from his boisterous self, but like he became Wally, he became a person, you know? It didn't feel like a gimmicky situation, it didn't feel like a vanity role. It felt like someone shedding parts of himself to really contribute to a larger story. I loved Marty Supreme for a good number of reasons. It really does mirror the underdog in a number of ways. As young people, as young 20-somethings, a number of us can relate to the plight of Marty Supreme, being this 20-something-year-old that's all boxed up with his family, wanting him to be a family man, wanting him to take a more conventional path in life. This is right after the World War, so the whole world is really reshaping itself following the carnage and the impact of what the war was. Here is this man who really just wants to be, he really just wants to become who he knows deep down within himself he is supposed to be. He has a very clear, very distinct sense of purpose, which is very contradictory to the expectations placed on him by the people around him. You look at his relationship with his mother. I have every reason to believe that his relationship with his mother is something which was frayed and fractured over time. Maybe it started out strong, but over time soured on both ends. On his part, he's salty at his mother for not being as supportive as maybe she used to be or as she should be, not really seeing the vision as far as the potency of his skill and his talents regarding table tennis are. On his mother's part, in her case, I don't really know what her situation is. She's seemingly not working, she's seemingly relying on the kindnesses of the men around her, which is not uncharacteristic of women in the 50s. At that time, there were very limited opportunities, even for other women we see in this. It's something we see a lot with Rachel's character and with Kat's character, both thrust into marriages they wanted nothing to do with. Well, not nothing to do with, but a lack of options, a pressure by society to settle and to really box themselves in with the provider men that were going to take care of them, that were going to provide them the security and stability that they needed to function in 1950s America. It wasn't a world and a society that held money. So I imagine Marty's mother, Mrs. Mauser, really wanted him to align himself with conventional work, with stable work, with something to put food on the table, and more than that, to really sustain them all. You know, Marty isn't a bum. He does have that sense of responsibility. He is aware that he needs to do things. He is aware that he needs to step up, but his manner and his approach is heavily influenced by his innate sense of purpose, his innate understanding of the fact that this table tennis thing, it's his destiny. It's the single thing on earth that he was born for. Although he does excel as a salesman, being the con artist that he is, tens are really due to everyone involved. The cinematographer, oh my goodness. Marty Supreme was a work of art. And if it does sweep at the Oscars, I won't be the happiest person about it, but trust me, I will understand, because everyone involved absolutely did know their onions. I can't lie though, I am actively rooting for Michael B. Jordan to win that Oscar because I'm always going to root for everybody black. Honestly speaking, I'd be fine with any of these men winning the Oscar except Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, I said it. I have nothing against Leonardo DiCaprio, but he has won an Oscar before, and one battle after another, between the role and the performance, there wasn't anything that was distinct enough for me to say it's more deserving than either Marty Supreme or Sinners. I saw all three of these films, and I can really vouch for the fact that what Timothée did, shedding his soul, what Michael B. Jordan did, splitting himself into two roles and selling both and really burying himself to entertain us, very deserving. Of course, there's more to life than Oscars. There's more to the world of acting than the accolades and all, but they certainly don't hurt, do they? Marty Supreme is another man undone by his pride, very similar to Victor Frankenstein in that sense, but there is the fact that he, when desperate enough, was capable of setting aside that pride, which is not something everyone can do. Him subjecting himself to getting spanked publicly, my goodness.
Wouldn't let that shit happen to me though.
Kneeling down to beg Mr. Rockwell goes further to show the complexities of his character. Marty Mauser, the hustler. Marty Mauser, the two-time homewrecker. Marty Mauser, the fast talker. The man who would speak in advance, would make these larger-than-life promises. There's the fact that the opening sequence is all about fertilization is a very graphic depiction of fertilization itself. I feel, my opinion is, it speaks to the overarching theme of what childbirth comes with. The fact that the movie begins with that and ends with the birth of his child. I feel like what is attempted to depict there is there's a sort of shifts in his purpose, and I feel like that's what that pause at the end is for, where he was crying and then there's this pause, kind of reflecting the fact that he's become a father now. There's a life he's responsible for. And on many levels, that changes and skews what his objectives would be. That kind of adds to and kind of marks a full stop on a particular chapter, a particular phase of what his life was, and the beginning of a new one. There's not going to be a sequel, but I really hope in some alternate universe that Marty Mauser did reach those heights of table tennis excellence and fame and riches, and really did meet up with all those empty promises he made across this film. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Tomiwa's Takes. If you agreed with the things I said, or if you really did not, drop something in the comments. And of course, if you did enjoy this episode, leave a like and subscribe. It's been me, and it's been real. Bye.